that you had during your trip. So glad to have you back. And yeah, welcome back. Shari, how are you today?
Hi, good morning, Tim. Good morning, everyone. Donika, welcome back. Mama B, how are you? Ingrid and everyone else. I don't want to call out everyone. I see so many familiar faces here. It's so good to be here, Tim. I've been so busy for the past 3 weeks. I've been missing this space, and I'm so happy to be back. And today is a very important day for me. It's 8 years since I moved to Canada, and it's the first time since being here I'm feeling so alive. So part of that I owe to this space, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And glad you are here as well. And congratulations on the 8 years, but more importantly, that you feel more alive than ever. And that really changes our perspective and our approach to life, the things that we're willing to do, that we believe that we can accomplish in life. When you feel like you can and you just feel like you actually want to, it makes a difference. So I'm really happy to hear that for you, Shari. So I will say, George, I see your hand, George. How are you? We'll speak to George and then we're going to go ahead and get into the conversation.
Tim Brown, the man, thanks for having us here. I'm pleased to announce the Canadian takeover of the space. I'm pleased to see Sherry here as well. Just quick question. Everyone likes the show so much, and your progress here has the momentum of a runaway freight train. Can you please explain why you are so popular?
Explain why I am so popular. Well, honestly, to say that, I would have to say the fact that I'm so popular, or the idea that I'm popular, lies in everyone else's minds that may feel that way. You know, for me, I'm just doing what I was led to do, what has been placed in my heart to do, and that's to serve. So as far as popularity, that's one of those terms that I stray away from. And I just try to make myself available for those that have an ear to hear, as they say, and appreciate what I'm doing. And what I have done is I've tried to make sure, as much as possible, that I stay out of the mindset that some people may have, where they're chasing numbers, where they're chasing popularity. And that wasn't my goal for doing this. And that still isn't my goal for doing this. And it's simply a matter of me just putting myself in position. And I often tell people, do your best and let God handle the rest. So I just do my best. I show up and I let God handle the rest. So I just have to attribute it to God's grace, mercy, and glory that people show up the way that they do, because it isn't about anything I do. It's God showing up and leading people to this space. And when we come together, we make beautiful things happen together with one another as we grow together. So that would be my response to that, George. Thank you for asking that.
Tough question, right? That's what everyone likes about Tim, is he can respond to the tough, hard-hitting questions.
Thank you, George. Donika, I see your hand.
Well, I just want to answer to George because I know Tim for almost 3 years, and he's the person never is going to talk about himself or how popular he is. And he always say, I didn't come in these spaces because I got paid or need fame or need followers. He is a people person. He listens carefully. He understands where you are without pressuring people. He always, to me, he is my brother. I call him brother because he always have been there, not only for me, but for everybody else. He listened. He is the last. I called him the stamp. You can't send the envelope if you don't have that stamp or return again. So he listened very carefully, and he's the last thought. Tim is the guy to go, and this is why we all love him. You know that you can meet Tim everywhere, at the shop, at the in school, as a coach. He is the person that can do it all, the man with many hats.
Thank you for that, Donika. And George, I will give you a more practical. Well, I feel like my answer was practical that I gave the first time, but I will share this perspective. One of the things that I feel may draw people to this space and what we do here in this space is that I prioritize everyone in the room. Everyone is important. Everyone is special. So I make it a point that everyone knows that they matter. And when we do that for people, which is a great segue into the conversation today, it opens the door to build trust and comfort. And in order to build great relationships with people, there has to be a level of trust and comfort that they don't typically feel from other people. And that's something that for me is very important. So I would give you that response in addition to what I said earlier from a more practical perspective. So, Mama B, I saw your hand go up.
You know, my hand's going to go up when I hear a question like that. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tim, everybody. Hello, Donika. Welcome. My reactions are not working today, so that's why I wasn't all over the place reacting to what everyone was saying. But to answer the question about why Tim is popular in these streets, it's because of what he just said. He just comes in here and gives value, and comes from the right motive of just giving value and just allowing things to happen on its own. And so we who are benefiting from that value cannot help ourselves but talk about him. So we talk about him everywhere we go. Like even now, somebody in a group that I'm in was talking about they're opening their first space. And so when I saw this title today, I'm like, oh my God. So I went into the chat and said, I thought about you when I saw Tim's space title. And so, yeah, we just can't help it. We just talk about him. Relevantly, though, we don't just go talking, but it's relevant in spaces that we go to. And we tell people that, if you want to do this, go here. And that's all it is. You just value is the answer to the question. And you don't become like Tim. I'm learning from Tim because he mentioned it just recently, not to be a bundle of chaos. So he's not a bundle of chaos. He just adds value. And the ripple effect, that's what's going on. That's why he's popular. Yes, that's exactly why. I'm done.
Thank you, Mama B. So what we'll do is we'll go to Jesus and Josh, and then after Josh, we're going to go ahead and get into the topic of the conversation. And just so you know, the conversation today is how to become a great conversation facilitator. So we're going to get into that after Josh. So Jesus, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
What's going on, Tim? It's good to see you too, man.
Yes, sir. It's been a while.
It has. It's not that I'm not on X or formerly known as Twitter. I am. I just don't participate as a speaker in a lot of spaces anymore, just because at least for me, it has gotten very redundant having the same conversations multiple times and not going anywhere, not advancing the space, not advancing the actual use case of the technology. So that's why I stopped participating as much. But as far as like for Tim, what I would have to say, and this is just from the personal experience that I've had with engaging and talking to Tim for how many years has it been, Tim? It's been a while, but
yes,
like for me, I would have to say it is one, the consistency, two, it's actually genuine, and three, it's because he is giving a platform to those who are trying to learn to be in a position where they're able to better their speaking skills, that has allowed Tim to become quote unquote popular. It's not the popularity in itself, it's more of the access that he has given to the broader community to be able to raise their voice and be able to become better speakers, not just in the public spaces when you're talking about spaces or like in a podium, but rather also as a speaker when you're talking to your spouse or when you're talking to your employer or when you're talking to your employees. It's an active speech that requires a lot of listening. And I do believe that those are the characteristics that have allowed Tim's spaces, or at least his platform, to grow at such a level where people are saying, "Wow, how popular is Tim?" And it's again, it's not based on popularity, because popularity is mainly on charisma, but at least for me, Tim has displayed more of a genuine approach to getting people to raise their voice when they felt before they did not have one.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that, Jesus. And you didn't have to explain your absence. I totally get it. Sometimes we have to take that step back and figure out what makes sense for us in the moment so that we can recover, refresh, revitalize, or whatever it is that we need. So let's go over now to Josh.
I will be very brief. George, great question. Great response, Tim. If I could describe my opinion and how I perceive Tim, I'm going to use it came to mind triple A's. So I got 3 A's. You're articulate. You are affirmative. And also, what was my third one? Articulate, or affirmative, and
I'm going to guess authentic.
authentic. Yes, beautiful. That was what it was. Number 1 was authentic. You are authentically you, and you show up, but you're affirmative to everybody, and you articulate things very well the way that you speak.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that from all of you. And it's just me showing up to do what I'm supposed to be doing to add value. And that's part of what I want everyone else to make sure you have that mindset. And that leads into the idea of what I've shared a couple times in the past couple weeks or so about the idea of being generous with people. And generosity doesn't have to be about money. Many times it's your time. It can simply be your time, your information and knowledge, access that you have that could open doors for other people. And when we have the willingness to do that for others with no expectation, it opens doors for you that you never expected to open, doors that you may have been trying to get through for months or years. And when you make a commitment that you are going to be a servant and serve others because you can, doors will open for you. And that's something else I can assure you. That's absolutely prescriptive. When you make a commitment to be generous and to serve others, doors will be open for you that you did not expect or may not have been able to open on your own. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And George, if you don't mind, sir, I want to go ahead and get started because I want to make sure I stay within the realm of what we're doing because we're going until 1:30, and I'm trying to be more intentional about us setting examples and doing the things that we say because I know I'm guilty. I've said things in the space. I've talked about ending on time and I haven't. And I'm definitely making a commitment to be better with that. And the past 2 weeks, we've done a great job. So I'm going to, and I'll come to you first, George, just in case you want to follow up after we get through this part of the conversation today. And welcome. Just for those of you that may have recently joined the space, that have joined the space since we began a few minutes ago, I want to thank you all for being here in the Confident Speaking space, in this community of learners where we're all growing together. We're all here to support one another. And everything we do is intentional because we're taking an assertive approach to be better than we were yesterday. No matter how much information I give you or anyone in this space shares with you, if you don't put in the work, you won't get the results. And that's what we're about here in this space. So as the conversation opens up even more, I encourage everyone to come up and be a speaker, get involved in the conversation so that you have these opportunities to practice and to begin to develop yourself, engage, learn to manage the fear that comes when you're speaking in front of a room with 30 or 40 people. We have to learn how to manage that fear because the butterflies never stop completely and you never know when they're going to show up. But when you take opportunities like this here in this space, you learn how to manage them. So no matter where you are, you aren't afraid of the nervousness because you know what to do to get over that and to deal with it in the moment. So today we're talking about how to facilitate, well, how to become a great conversation facilitator. How to become a great conversation facilitator. And for a lot of people, you may be thinking, well, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to facilitate conversations or be a facilitator. But when we think about the idea of being confident and effective communicators, this is something that is an important skill to have. And not only is it a skill, it's a mindset. Facilitating great conversations is about a mindset that you have to have. It requires intentional behaviors. It requires you to be assertive in your approach when you are having these conversations with people. And it could be one on one conversations, it could be conversations that you have with a group of people where you're able to implement what we're going to discuss today to improve the conversations and interactions that you have. So, as we go through this, I want to share with you a few of the benefits and why you should want to be able to facilitate great conversations and how you can do that. Some of the things you can think about in order to actually begin facilitating great conversations. Now, what does facilitate mean? Facilitate means that you are able to make a process or a task easier, smoother, or more efficient. That's what facilitate means. And to be a facilitator means that you are an individual who has the ability to make a process easier, smoother, or more efficient. And who doesn't appreciate a smooth flowing conversation that we get to have with people, especially when there's a group of people involved and you have all these different personalities, some bigger than others, some more reserved than others. And you often look around and you see the chaos at times, but you also see those moments where everyone is reserved and the conversation doesn't really go well. And you have these moments of awkward silence that happen in these interactions. And when you are able to become a great conversation facilitator, you're mindful of those different dynamics and you understand steps that you can take in order to make it more smooth, to make it easier for people to engage, and to also make it more efficient. And when you think about efficiency in a conversation, efficiency would refer to the ability to have a conversation about a topic of importance. Everyone have an opportunity to share the thoughts that they may have and still do it in a timely manner. And we lose the efficiency when you have certain people that dominate the conversation and everything is about them and not everyone gets an opportunity to share what they're thinking and what they're feeling. So there's an element of efficiency that needs to be brought into these conversations to really allow them to thrive and to get everyone involved in what's going on. And I want you to think about this like a conductor. You're the conductor in the conversation. And if you think about what a conductor does, the conductor of an orchestra, the conductor doesn't usually say much. It's generally through their body language that they're communicating with people, with the orchestra, the people playing the instruments. However, they are very much aware of everyone that's in that orchestra and they know what's supposed to be happening, when it's supposed to happen. They understand the importance of timing. They understand the importance of being able to bring people in when it's their time to make sure everyone has an opportunity to shine when it's important for them. And they provide that guidance because you may have some people that are potentially new to the orchestra and they may not respond in time, but the director or the conductor knows to look over and give them that little nod with the baton. I remember a few months ago, I was trying to figure out the name of the wand that the conductor uses, but it's a baton that they use. But think of yourself as an orchestra or as a conductor of the orchestra within that conversation. Now, why should you want to become a great conversation facilitator? One, it's a tremendous confidence booster. And it does that because over time you begin to realize the level of influence that you have. And this is something that you can do subtly as you are engaging with people. Everyone doesn't have to know that you have a goal in mind, that you're working on a skill. It's something that you just begin to do naturally and work your way into it. Because believe it or not, This is a way to subtly practice and assert your leadership. Think about that. Facilitating a conversation allows you to practice and assert your leadership because you're now conducting the conversation. You're helping to direct and steer the flow of that conversation. What do leaders do? They guide, they steer, and they lead. So, as the facilitator of a conversation, one of the benefits is you get to practice and assert your leadership. It also helps elevate your credibility. And it elevates credibility because as you are facilitating these conversations, you establish a trust factor along the way. You create an environment where people are able to feel safe and they're also able to feel comfortable in their interactions, not just with you, but also within that group. If you've ever been in an environment or a conversation where things were a little hectic and there's this individual in the room that everyone has a tendency to look to, when people get a little crazy, you may look around and say, okay, what's John going to do about this? Everyone is wondering what John is going to do. How is John going to fix this mess that we're dealing with right now? So John has established himself as a great conversation facilitator, someone that people trust and someone that people feel safe and comfortable with. And there's a level of credibility that John has established that if something goes wrong, if things go awry, John has the ability to help us get back on track. And facilitating great conversations opens that door for you. And one other thing in terms of why you should consider doing this and make it a part of your journey is to understand that it could potentially create new opportunities for you. It could potentially create new opportunities. People get paid to facilitate focus groups. People get paid to facilitate corporate team building activities. So this could actually become a side hustle for you. It could potentially become an absolute career for you as a facilitator. And even in your conversations, you can begin practicing those skills to figure out how to facilitate great conversations that can now transfer and translate into your ability to facilitate corporate events, corporate training, corporate team building activities. Think about that. And you can do that in your everyday life, just practicing, but having the mindset to understand some of the nuances and the dynamics of interacting with people, engaging with people, and how to manage and monitor and assert yourself as a leader in those environments. It's a tremendous opportunity for you to do that. And when you do that, not only will your friends and peers recognize it, but there will also be senior leaders, people that may have more authority than you, who realize the level of influence that you have in your organization. And that will potentially open doors for you to now get promoted and elevated in your position because you simply decided that you wanted to be a great conversation facilitator. And it's the simple things that we do that can have such a huge impact in our lives. And I want you to begin to really think about that and recognize where so many opportunities lie for us doing some of the basic things of life that we don't think about. And that's why I wanted to point this out today about how to become a great conversation facilitator, because this will open doors for you. Now, how do you do it? Here are a few things that you can do to help you become a great conversation facilitator. First is to understand your roles in the conversation. You have to go into a conversation thinking, I have a role in this. What's my role that I'm going to play in this conversation? And I want you to understand that you can become a learner in those conversations. Think to be a peacemaker in the conversations, to be an interpreter in the conversation, and you may be the glue in the conversation. Those are roles that you can play that people would need depending on the type of interaction that you're having, depending on the group of people that are a part of this conversation. So there are multiple hats that you may wear at different times, but you need to be mindful that, okay, I have to transition to the peacemaker because it's getting a little bit edgy. People are getting a little bit excited. So let me make sure I maintain the peace in this conversation. Or I need to interpret because I can recognize that this person just made a comment and they share some really great points. but I can see on the faces of two other people that are listening, they didn't really understand what was just said. They didn't ask a question. Like confident and effective communicators are going to ask questions so that we don't walk away without an understanding. That's the whole point of communication, is understanding. But as a great conversation facilitator, we recognize the curiosity or the puzzled look that some people have. And we can either ask Michael or Susan to restate what they just said a little simpler for the other people that are uncomfortable asking the question because they don't want to feel like they're the only ones that don't get it. And it can be uncomfortable when you feel like, okay, am I the only one that doesn't understand what was said? So we walk away without an understanding. So as a great facilitator, you will ease that tension for them. And this is where that credibility, that trust, making people feel safe and comfortable because you create that moment for them. You open the door for them to realize that, hey, it's okay to ask a question. And I'll ask a question in a minute. I'll be that person for people. And that's what we have to be willing to do. Or if you understand it well enough, you could say, well, Michael or Susan, let me restate what you said. This is what I think I heard you say. And then you explain it in a way that you feel it would be easier for those people who may still be confused to understand it. And that's facilitating great conversation because you're making sure that everyone is able to participate. Because remember what I've said, if you are reading something or you're listening to something and you don't understand one word that has been shared, if you don't take a moment to get understanding of that one word, you may miss the context of the rest of the conversation or the rest of everything that you read, especially if it builds upon the foundational understanding of that one word or that one concept. So, as confident and effective communicators, we do not let the moment pass us by where we walk away confused without getting clarity and understanding, because we may need that information to do something that's going to potentially benefit our lives. But at the least, we should make sure that we give the person sharing information with us the respect and courtesy to be able to say, hey, you know what? I didn't understand that. And I really feel like what you were sharing was important. Can you help me understand that? Can you explain that a little differently, a little simpler, and open the door for that additional conversation? The next thing is to listen more than you speak. In order to be a great conversation facilitator, you have to listen more than you speak. Think about the conductor. They don't say much out of their mouths. It's their body language. It's the gestures that they make. But in our instance, listen more than you speak. We have to learn to defer judgment, be patient with people, give people an opportunity to finish their thoughts and not interrupt, beginning to identify the individual and group dynamics. Who's connecting in the conversation? Who's debating, or why are people doing some of the things that they do? And you can't do that if you're doing all of the speaking. If you're speaking, that means you aren't listening. And if you aren't listening, you probably aren't learning. So, as confident and effective communicators that are able to facilitate great conversations, we have to listen more than we speak, because this allows us to understand our environment. It allows us to understand the people who are part of the environment that we're in, so that we then are also able to determine where there may be opportunities to create more safety, to create more comfort, and to establish trust with people who don't feel it just yet. That's part of the role. And that's why listening more than speaking is so important. And if you've ever been in a conversation with someone or people where you find yourself listening and you want to have a conversation, but there may be one or two people that just, they won't stop. And you're just thinking, I'm not sure why I'm here, because the conversation is usually a two-way street or a three-way street, depending on how many people are in the group. So think about that. The next time you find yourself wondering, why am I here? Ask yourself, am I this person in conversations with other people? You do not want to be the one that is always commanding the attention, always speaking. Other people need to have an opportunity to speak. And then the third thing is to make it about others. Make it about others. And when you make it about others, it means that you're being empathetic to what they're sharing. You're connecting and you're helping them understand that you are connected to what they're talking about. You're showing curiosity. You have to show curiosity, which means that you're asking questions. It isn't just waiting for your opportunity to respond and say what you want to say. You're actually asking questions so that they are encouraged to say more and share more in that conversation. That's how you make it about them. Most people enjoy talking about themselves. And if we're facilitating great conversations, we absolutely give them the opportunity to do that. Why? Because it gives them a level of comfort. It endears them to you, but then it also gives you an opportunity to learn and to understand that individual, especially if you have to deal with them in the future, because we need to take time and be intentional observers of the people that are in our lives so we understand the nuances of their behaviors, when they may have certain tendencies, why they may have certain tendencies, and the fact that they have certain tendencies that they may not even recognize, that we have the opportunity to potentially share with them and make them aware of so that they have the ability to make some corrections. There are things that people may do that are close to us that could potentially be harmful to them at some point in their lives. And when we are intentional about observing and understanding some of the nuances of their behavior, we open the door to help change some things for them. But we have to make it about others. And there's two more. The next one is manage interruptions and distractions. As a great facilitator, great conversation facilitator, we know that there's always going to be people that want to interrupt. They just jump in, and some people do it for different reasons. Some people do it because they're simply rude and disrespectful. Some people, as I've learned, that may deal with a form of neurodivergence. This is just what was shared with me from a couple of people, where the excitement overwhelms them and they don't have the physical ability to not say what they're thinking or feeling. So it isn't intentional, and it isn't their intent to be disrespectful. It's something that they may be dealing with that they can't control. So we have to be mindful of that. And that's where intentional observation allows us to understand that, okay, I realize that when Harold interrupts, it isn't because he's being disrespectful. I understand that Harold has a condition that he's trying to manage. So we learn how to work with Harold and how to allow Harold to have that space. And we work around that. We work around that with Harold because we understand the why. And that's where we also, and there are times where people may have said some things or done some things, even in the space where I may come back after they finish and provide some clarity or help them understand the importance and the reason why we might wait to raise our hands before we speak, especially when others are speaking. Because if someone has the ability to interrupt and we don't fix that, it begins to spread. And then eventually it turns into a pool of piranha and everyone is jumping around. Me next, my turn, my turn, my turn. And you completely lose the efficiency or the smoothness of that conversation because we have interruptions and distractions. So as someone that understands how to facilitate great conversations, you recognize when those distractions take place. You recognize those people that are dominating the conversation and you develop the comfort level. You lead. This is, again, it's part of that leadership that you get to practice and assert when facilitating conversations, because you're able to say, okay, Steve, I noticed, I really appreciate everything that you've been sharing, but if you don't mind, I want to go over here and see what Jana has to say. Jana, you've been quiet. What do you want to say? So managing those interruptions and distractions. But that goes into maintaining balance and equity, which I got a little ahead of myself with that last comment about redirecting to Jana, who was the quiet person. When we maintain balance and equity, this creates engagement for everyone. Those people who may not be as talkative, it engages them to ask them, well, what do you think? In a in an easy way, you make it easy for them to share a thought. Find something that seems very simple that they can answer to get involved, because they may not be comfortable enough just jumping in. They may not feel like they have the level of understanding or knowledge to just jump in, because they decided in their minds, I don't have enough value to add to this conversation, but they do. Everyone has value to add, and your value may simply be asking a question. Your value could simply be saying, you know what? This is new to me. Can you give me a little more information so that I can understand it better? Because you can best believe if you have a question amongst a group of people, at least one other person has the same or similar question. So engaging people with those questions is going to help temper the talkative people when we maintain balance and equity in these conversations. So bringing all that together, when you think about how you're going to become a great conversation facilitator, is that you're going to understand your role or your roles in any given conversation. Are you a learner, peacemaker, interpreter? Are you simply the glue, which you tend to be in most cases? You listen more than you speak in those conversations. You make it about others. And one other point about listening more than you speak is you're modeling a behavior for other people to know that it's okay not to always have something to say, and that it's okay to stop and take a breath and to be silent for a moment. So you're modeling a behavior for other people to see. Make it about others. Manage interruptions and distractions, and then to maintain balance and equity in the conversation. And equity, when I say equity, equity means that everyone gets what they need. It isn't equality. Equality says everyone gets the same thing. Equity says everyone gets what they need based on where they are. Some people need more hugs during the day than others. So it's a matter of understanding what each participant needs to help them feel like they've gotten what they need from the conversation. So that's where we'll end with that. And then we're going to go ahead and open up for some conversations and see what some thoughts people may have about that. And just thinking about yourself in conversations. Are these things that you already do? Are there other approaches that you have? And potentially, what is it that you feel like you may struggle with, that you may have questions about that we can answer? And before we go to the hands, I just want to remind everyone that here in the space, we know that we're intentional about what we do. So we practice the 4 Ps, our pitch, pace, power, and pauses as we're speaking. We practice our conciseness. And conciseness is important because it forces you to be thoughtful about what you're saying. And for those of you that may struggle with conciseness, write down some bullet points for yourself before you speak. That way you understand your message, why you're saying what you're saying, and how you're going to say what you're going to say, so that you can feel comfortable that once you've shared your last point, it's okay to pass the mic on to someone else. And plus, it shows a level of courtesy for everyone else that may be wanting to speak or share. And we do use the timer in the space. We use the timer because this forces us all to be intentional about that. It teaches your mind to plan for conciseness when we use the timer. So that's why we do that. It isn't simply because we don't want you to be able to share everything you have to share. We know everything you have to share is important, but what's most important for the moment? And that's what the timer and us practicing conciseness teaches you to do, is to identify the most important aspect of your message that you can share concisely with everyone, so that you make your point and then everyone gets to make theirs as well. And I want to say one more thing, is that for those of you who may not have ever spoken in a space before, I want you to know that it's okay. If you request to be a speaker, you don't actually have to say anything in here. Just come and be a speaker. And if that's your journey to making progress, because our goal is for you to make progress, not to worry about perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. We just want you to make progress. So if progress means that you simply become a speaker, because believe it or not, for some people, seeing the word speaker under their name is terrifying. The idea of you being a speaker is terrifying for some people. So if that's progress for you, where you become a speaker and don't say anything, we're fine with that. And what we do in this space is, for anyone that is a speaker, We don't call on you unless your hand is raised for that reason, because we want you to know that it's okay to be a speaker, but we don't call on people unless they raise their hand, because we're leaving room for everyone to make progress, whatever that progress may look like for them. So come on up, get involved, expand your comfort zone, and let's continue growing together. So I think it was was Josh's hand up first? I think Josh's hand was up, and then Yogini, Jesus, and then Brenda. Well, before that, Donika or Shari, do you all have anything you want to say before we go to the hands?
I can. Okay, go, Sherry. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to say, Tim, that I actually like the way that the topics are all like, they seem to be weaved in together too, because when you were speaking, I'm like, these qualities are qualities of a great leader. And I remember we spoke about leadership like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I really like that. And I also wanted to talk about being a facilitator when you said this could actually be a great career move. And that's where I'm actually leading towards. And it's so um, fascinating to see, like, I was so afraid to speak before, and then to think about the fact that I'm interested in being a facilitator, and then you bring this topic up. It's crazy to me. So I just want to say thank you for bringing this topic up, because I'm enjoying it, and I look forward to hearing what everyone else have to say about it.
Absolutely, and thank you. I'm glad that it did that, and this is part of, for me in my life, the way that I move in my life. And I never try to pressure anyone to believe what I believe, but it's important that I share what I do and why I do it. And this is where I try to be led. I try to be led by God with everything that I do. And this is why sometimes I don't know what the topic may be until Saturday morning, because I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out what needs to be discussed. What do you need me to share with people to bring up as a topic of discussion? Because there's always someone that needs something specific. And I believe in timely words. And that's what happens, when we do this. And it's important that we just show up and not worry about the numbers, not worry about the popularity, because I was just given this revelation and this mindset that if what I do or say can reach one person, because I may not be able to change the world myself, but I could potentially have an impact and inspire that one person who can. So that's why we show up and we do the things that we're doing, and we learn how to be these confident and effective communicators. We learn how to facilitate engaging conversations and great conversations, because the things we do and say may inspire that one person. So just a reminder for everyone, don't worry about the numbers. The numbers will come when we add value. The numbers will come, but the main thing is that you have an impact in people's lives. And that's when you begin to see the growth that you're looking for and that you want, because that isn't what you're chasing. You're chasing opportunities to change people's lives, and that makes a difference. So things are divine like that, Shari. So I'm glad to hear that. And if you have questions about it, you can always ask. Any information or other thoughts you may have that I could share, I definitely would do that for you. But Donika.
Yes, Tim. Thank you for asking me, and beautiful conversation. How to be a great a facilitator. It is important whenever you are. You can be a teacher, you can be a parent, you can be a life coach or a trainer. It doesn't matter. But anytime then you communicate with others, first of all, you represent yourself, your skills, gifts, talents, and second of all, if you are in a leader position, you are in front of others, and a leader is not somebody that stay in front of others, but he watches his team, he work from the back and make them shine and rise. So for me, being a teacher, I have to be every day a good facilitator for the kids because of the mood, how they come, the mindset, how their emotions are in the morning or throughout the day, and is that tone of voice, the presence, the way how we communicate, how solve the problem, then is going to set the tone for entire day. So I have to be active listener. I have to be a conflict resolution to solve the problems if they have the problem, because I am in charge. But if we work together, we can solve this problem by listening to others, and that bring better collaboration, better teamwork, and they can use this as a teachable moment to inspire others, and maybe they can take everything at home and show, to the parents and other siblings. But same thing if I work with clients, I have to know or live by and do it myself, because sometimes if you are not that good facilitator and you don't do this for yourself, sometimes you can mislead people, and is nothing worse than misinformation, because people trust you as a leader, they trust you as a teacher, they trust you as a parent. So invest in yourself to become greater leader in your daily life or wherever you work, because it is very important to shift that mindset. Every day is new day. I can do something better. I can invest in myself. And I have 2 ears to listen, one mouth to talk. It's better to listen twice and speak once, because that is how we add values. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you and Shari both touched on the leadership aspect of it. And it just carries over. This is why, as Shari said, we spoke about leadership and how many of you in here may be unintentional leaders. And you have to understand that there's a responsibility that comes with leadership, even if you didn't ask for it. There's someone always watching. There's a level of responsibility and accountability that we want to have and maintain, because we want to set good examples for people. We want to be that type of person that someone knows they can trust in any given situation, that we're going to do what we said we're going to do, that we understand the importance of valuing other people, that we take the time to listen. And these are part of the characteristics of leaders. So everywhere you are, there's opportunity to grow. And I really want you to begin thinking about that and paying attention to how you can refine your abilities in the most mundane of situations if you just take the moment to be mindful about where the opportunity is and be intentional about your behaviors. You can change and do something spectacular that you did not expect. So let's go over now and to Josh. And so everyone knows the way the timer works. So we do 2 minutes for the people that have been around for a while, because they understand what we're doing. They know the flow and they want to challenge themselves even more. And just know that there's 2 chimes that go off, and this is already built in. So all I have to do is push the button one time and it'll count down. And then this chimer rings when you have 30 seconds left. And then it rings again when the time is up. So don't be afraid of the first chimer. The first chimer just lets you know that you have 30 seconds. So now's the time to summarize what it is you're trying to say. All right. And remember, write bullet points for yourself. That makes it a lot easier to manage your time. And this isn't just about this space. This is so that anywhere in life, you may go to an interview where they don't have a lot of time. And I've seen interviews where people had 4 people they needed to interview in an hour. So you can imagine how fast that had to be. But as the interviewee, you've got a lot of great points you need them to understand about you and why you're the best candidate for that position. So you best be able to be concise and understand what's most important about your skills in those 15 minutes. This is why we do this. This is why we use the timer, so that you develop the mindset and the ability to be concise in your communication. So Josh, yes, sir.
All right, my heart's beating like 1,000 miles a minute. So I am practicing, working on the amount that I share and how I articulate myself, but also this is what I'm practicing today, Tim, is my cadence. I don't want to feel like rushed, but I want to practice my cadence, because if I start rambling a bunch of things and trying to cram it all into like 30 seconds, I might not be effectively communicating. But what I will say is know your goals and objectives in communication. Know your goals and objectives. What am I trying to accomplish? And then also